Right, good morning. I'm Stephanie Tarrant, and as the representative for the Director of Law and Governance on behalf of this board, it falls to me to open this meeting of the Fire Pension Board, as today the board will be electing a new chairman and vice chairman. Firstly, I'll read today's announcements. The council will be holding this meeting electronically. Members of the public may also attend this meeting in an electronic capacity, and there is a link on the council's website for them to do so. Members of the board are asked to keep their microphones switched off until called to speak and to switch off their microphones once they're finished speaking. Cameras may be left on throughout the meeting if members wish. If you experience connection or other technical issues, it may help to switch your camera off. Cameras should be switched on if and when speaking. To indicate a wish to speak, members should use the raise hand function. Use of the meeting chat function is exclusively for voting. At the end of the debate on each item of business, there will be a vote. Members should vote using the meeting chat function by indicating for, against, or abstain. The chairman will declare the result after each vote. I'd like to welcome Councillor Richard Short to the board as a new employer representative, and we have one substitution to note today on the members' side, and welcome Darren Scotchford. The board's chairman and vice chairman are elected annually, and the side that they are elected from rotates annually. Today, the chairman will be elected from the member representatives and the vice chairman elected from the employer representatives. Our first order of business is to elect a chairman. So please could I ask the board to nominate a member representative to be the chairman for the upcoming year. John?
Yes, thanks, Stephanie. I'd like to nominate Peter Hill.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder for that, please? Yes, thank you, Darren. Are there any further nominations for chairman at all? No, as there's no further nominations, Pete Hill will be elected as chairman for the coming year, and I will hand over to Pete to run through the election of the vice chairman.
Thank you, guys. And thank you, board, for nominating me for the forthcoming year. I would like to ask the board now to nominate a vice chair. Do we have a nomination, please? Didn't hear that. Sorry.
Nominate John Bolter.
Thank you, Darren. That's good. Do we have a seconder for John Bolter, please?
I'm happy to second that if that's okay. Richard Shaw.
Thank you, Richard. Much appreciated. So, John, thank you, John, for stepping up to this role. I'm sure we'll be working together plenty as time the year goes on.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm assuming there are no others wanting to be vice chair. There must have been a massive queue, John, behind you. No, okay, maybe my error. All right, so I'd like to just raise some issues on declarations of interest. I'm sure you know all about the declarations of interest, but being the pedant that I am, members are reminded that if they consider that they have any disclosable pecuniary interest in any matter to be considered at this meeting, they must declare that interest and must not participate in or vote on that matter unless a dispensation has been granted by the Standards Committee. And if they consider that they have a declarable interest as defined in the Code of Conduct for members in any matter to be considered at this meeting, they must declare the existence and nature of that interest, that they can speak and vote on the matter. Okay. We now need to go to the minutes of the previous meeting. Do we have any comments on the previous meeting? Please, if you can dump that into chat, that would be fantastic. Or if not, then we can agree those minutes. Okay. Stephanie, is there a reason why I'm not seeing the contents of the chat? Or is there something I've not done right here?
There's not been any comments, but it was only John that was here at the last meeting.
Okay, and I
was happy to agree then.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, John. Much appreciated. I can't remember if I was at that meeting. Was I, Stephanie?
Yes,
I think I was. Yes, I was. Yes. Okay, good. And I'm happy with those as well. So I'll put mine as well. Good. Thank you. Good. I think we can then move on to agenda item 2 if we've agreed those minutes. So we are now going to be discussing the fire pension scheme risk register report. I think that's presented by Alison. Over to you, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. This is the quarterly risk report for the period October to December 2024. During the period, there was no movements with the rating levels of the risks, and officers felt that the risk ratings remained at an adequate level. Since the period, work on the pensions dashboard projects continues, with LPPA documenting full business requirements, including system aspects of the project. A dedicated pensions dashboard page has also been added to their website. Work has been continuing on the McLeod and Matthews projects, and there will be a more detailed update later from my colleague Rachel on this. We are also currently in the process of reviewing the fund's risk policy, which, with assistance from our actuary Barnett Waddingham, the updated policy will be taken to the next pension committee for approval, which we will be able to share with you following that committee meeting. This policy also feeds into the risk register, which subsequently will be updated to align with the updated policy, if obviously it's approved by a pensions committee. And that's all I was going to say on the report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions, please, board?
All felt very reasonable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, excellent. Then that just leaves me to accept that. Thank you very much, Alison, for that. We note the comment and the contents of the report and the risk register at Appendix A on that. So does that bring me on to agenda item 3, the Hertfordshire Fire Quarter 2?
Sorry, Pete, can we just... Sorry, Pete, can I just record the agrees from the board members, please, on that one?
Yes, of course. Let me just get back to it as well. Let me know when you're happy, Stephanie.
Yeah, so I've popped that in there now. That's good to go. Thank you. That's agreed.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. So that brings me on to agenda item 3, the Hertfordshire Quarter 2 and Quarter 3 LPPA performance report, which will be delivered by Chris Batts and Jenny Gregory, I understand. Over to you guys.
So apologies from Jenny, she's not able to attend the meeting. She is very focused on the operation and working on McLeod and Matthews cases, so just me today. So at a very high level headline for the Q2 and Q3, Q2 had a 97.3% performance against service levels, so 95% being the target, so above that. And in quarter 3, it slightly increased to 98.3. There were a couple of missed service levels within there. They were all related to retirement and McLeod cases, and the challenge we have is that the numbers on those are relatively low anyway. So one misses obviously hits your percentage hard on that. So the numbers of cases were relatively low. As I say, it hit the percentage. Complaints, low levels. I think there was one in each of those quarters. And, you know, that's been consistent there. I think subsequently, anecdotally, since we'll have seen an increase due to the McLeod work, but we'll see that through Q4 and later reporting. In terms of the contact centre, the wait times for members calling in those quarters was well within our targets of 4 minutes at 1:53 for quarter 2 and 2 minutes 28 for quarter 3. Over the course of those, we see normal spikes, which is seasonal activity, so nothing unusual in our trend analysis on the calls. Satisfaction. Hard to pull out much on the satisfaction, unfortunately, because we just get low levels of responses. But just to give you a flavour of how that works, in case you're not aware. So when people call the contact centre, at the beginning of the call, there are reference to a survey that's available at the end of the call, should they wish to stay on and take that. And then equally for retirements, we issue surveys to retired members after they've received their first payment. We have tried incentivising in the past. I think that there was a prize draw for some Amazon vouchers, but that didn't make, we did that for 3 months across all of LPPA, and that didn't have a material difference at all on the numbers of responses. So the numbers are low. So again, low numbers mean the percentages are, you know, moving dramatically, but there's nothing in there that gives us cause for concern, I would say. And similarly on the complaints, trends would be around delays, which is not, you know, unexpected, I guess, particularly with some of the McLeod stuff. So you're always going to get them, so we're fairly comfortable about that. But there is a complaints board that's been formed that looks across the whole of LPPA's complaint area, looking for trends, some more focus on lessons learned and making sure we're putting the correct preventative actions in as well as the corrective. So that's a positive step forward, and across all of our clients that's seen an improvement in both response times to complaints and a decrease in the numbers generally. In terms of the project work, there's been a lot of focus, well, for Q2, Q3, that was the build up to McLeod. Q4 is when it really hit home, and then it continues now. But Rachel's doing an update on that, so I won't give too much. I'll let her do her update, but happy to answer questions after that and support Rachel in her updates on the McLeod project. Pensions dashboard is another project that's tracking green still as we head towards October. There's a crucial date in October, but just to remind board that that's a connectivity date. So we're on track to connect, as I say. The members won't see that for a while. I think we try and make that quite clear. We have no date for when the members will access, but the pace at which some of these organisations and government work for that is that we're thinking it might be another year out from that, possibly. So we're obviously running regular round tables for all clients where we update on that. But yeah, on track for connectivity and starting to plan to make sure we can handle the inevitable calls that arise where members do start looking, so that we're forward planning for that. That was a very quick skim through high level. It's obviously a bit tricky with it being Q2 and Q3 being so far back, but happy to take any further questions.
Okay. Board, do we have any questions? Oh, I have a question, Chris.
Sure. I
noticed that you mentioned that we're pretty much having 0 responses on the survey that you ask. How extensive are the questions on the survey? I mean, people, you know, do they get like a feed-in page where there's a small bar that goes across and it says 1 of 20 questions, or do you? How does it work? Tell me.
I'll be honest, Chair, I don't know exactly how it works. I know that on the contact centre, there's a focus on the overall service provided by LPPA, and then how satisfied they were with the agent, and the 2 slides are in the pack. So being very generic across all of our clients, the agents get very high levels. So they're pleased with the people that they speak to. However, the topic on which they've been speaking about sometimes sees some more dissatisfaction, whether that be a delay. They might have had to phone to chase, for example. But I can certainly come back with the detail of just how large a survey it is and so on. I don't think it's particularly long, because that would just put people off and you'd see drops in it. So I think it's kept very high level and simple. But let me forward a copy of the questions, actually, might be a nice, so you can see what's going on.
That might be useful for me. Thank you. In another word, I always use the question of, if there was just one thing you could tell me about your experience, tell me what it is. It's very subjective, of course. It's data oriented, and it doesn't check boxes that are really easy to report on when we get these surveys. But you take my point. I'll be very interested to see those. Thank you.
Yeah, we do capture verbatim comments should they put them in there. So there is the ability for people to, you know, to write something rather than just do a 1 to 5 rating on questions. There is that opportunity. I know that.
And I don't know if it's a poo-poo thing, but you could always use AI to pull out the contents of any survey these days.
Yeah.
John, you had a question. Thank you, Chris. John.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. And again, I share to a certain extent Chris's frustrations in that we're looking at reports from some time ago now. I'm just wondering if there's anything. Chris referenced the fact that before people make the call, there's a cue to the fact that there's a survey afterwards. So I wonder whether call handlers themselves, people who are answering it, are given any sort of prompt to encourage the caller to make use of that opportunity, because with the data we have at the moment, it really doesn't tell us much at all.
It doesn't. I don't think. I think it's very scripted, if I'm honest, John, in terms of what they have to say at the beginning of the call. That's typical. I did take a little bit of time the first thing this morning in anticipation of some questions around this. Hertfordshire Fire isn't unusual. It's not an outlier in terms of the low numbers. That's across the piece. I looked at one of the larger fire clients this morning. They were at about 5% of ratio in terms of surveys to calls. And I think Hertfordshire is slightly lower than that, but then one of the other smaller authorities was around the same as you. So not taking away from the fact that it's disappointing in that you don't get much quality if you've not got much response rate, but it's common in terms of the returns.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. John, do you have any more questions on that? No. Okay. Thank you, Richard. You have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Chris mentioned there. It's very disappointing that we've got all these calls coming through and we're not getting any comments at all. So are people actually going through the process of answering those calls and answering the questionnaire, then just cutting off? Do we know that at all? Or literally just people not going down that process whatsoever? Because when you've got the number of calls being answered or questionnaires being answered as low as that, it's, as I say, it's quite disappointing.
So there'll be a number of scenarios that an agent will go through. There'll be what I'd refer to, I don't know whether it's our company's choice of phrase, but the one and done. So you've answered the member's query on the call. And I think it would be, you're more likely to get someone complete a survey after that type of scenario. But if you've got to have something taken away, I don't think people generally would go to surveys, because you're not quite finished in your overall view. Or I suppose it could go the other way, that you've not had the answer you want. I'm going to complete a survey to write some negative comments or responses. So I don't think there is a fixed answer to that, if I'm honest.
Does
Sorry,
someone new, obviously I'm new to this committee, so bear with me, but is there any other ways we can maybe get some feedback? Do we, obviously a telephone, obviously when people phone through, is any way we can send something in the post or something like that, or anything like that, to get some responses?
So we tend to do it via email, just to sort of keep down on postage. And we do, on the retirement ones, we do send a chaser if we've got an email address to follow up to request that survey. That's on the retirement ones. What I would say is I did look at Q4, and I mean, don't we're not going to get blown away by the numbers, but the numbers did go up. So rather than the 1 or 2, we were at 5, 6 or 7. So a small improvement, but so the percentage of response rate goes up, but the numbers are quite low.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can certainly look, I think, as we go more digital down the line, and I'm talking sort of roadmap type stuff, as we start to look at some of the automation processes that we've been successful within the local government side. That whole digital offers a new way of doing sort of surveys, where if you're completing a form online or you're looking at something through Pensions Point, and we've got good take up on that, there is further opportunity to look at where and how we put surveys out to members. So that's something we can look at going forward.
All right. Thank you. Yes, John.
Sorry, Chris, you just referenced there a Q4 report. Has that been produced but just is yet to be shared? I'm intrigued as if there is a Q4 report, wouldn't it be a good opportunity today for members of the panel to be looking at it?
I defer to my my colleagues at Hertfordshire. I'm new to the board and the cycle and the governance that goes around it. We have produced a quarterly 4 report, as we would have to, as part of our service. I'm not quite sure of the cycle and how that finds its way to discussion.
Hi, yeah. So we can't share that with you just yet because we have to share that with the committee first. So it's just how the meetings have all aligned that we've had to only do up to Q3, but as soon as it's gone to committee, we'll be able to share that with you.
Alison, can you just clarify which committee it is for people who
It's
might be new
pensions
to this?
committee. Yeah, sorry, it's pension committee who oversee LGPS and the fire scheme. So as soon as it's been shared with them, we'll be able to share that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Richard, you have another question?
Yeah, I'm just, will we have that in time for our October meeting?
I'll need to check on that. I think so, but I can't confirm that completely. But we'll obviously get in touch. My manager's just on leave at the minute, but I think there are plans in place.
Thanks.
Okay. I have a concern over the length of time between the reports being produced and this board getting sight of those. I'm also, would you believe, quite new to the board. I have not come to very many meetings, even though I've been on the board a while, mostly because of failing to get quorum and stuff. Excuse me. I think we do need to find a way that this board is better informed. I'll share with you, distinctly uncomfortable about not being as informed as I think we could be. I don't think we need to have a formal board meeting in order to understand the data. And once this board is better informed and does understand the data, I think we could comment more broadly and understand the depth of some of the issues that are affecting our up-and-coming pensioners, our existing pensioners, some of those issues that may affect LPPA, etc., rather than it be just like a one-way feed in from LPPA and you guys towards this board. I would like this board to be more participative in its approach and control. So I don't know how the rest of the board feel about that. I'm open to hear some comments if you have any.
Just from my perspective, sorry, I just butted in there, John. Sorry about that. I do agree with you. It would be more helpful to provide more information at more frequency throughout the year. So that is something we're looking at planning to do. So. But I think my manager, Taryn Pete, will confirm the details once it's been arranged.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Alison. John, you had a
yeah, just wanted to sort of row it back behind Alison, because I know that it's unfortunate Taryn's not here today, but we wish her well on her holidays. But I know Taryn is looking at this and ways of keeping a board a little bit up to date. I suppose also in mitigation, just a reminder that this particular fire pensions board were due to meet in April, at which those reports would have been produced, and so presumably, the lag would have been a lot less. It's just unfortunate that that the board didn't meet in April because we weren't quorate. So. There are perhaps some mitigation on this occasion.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Okay. Thank you. Where were we? Chris, were you finished? Do you have more to talk about? I think you do.
I've finished, unless there's any more questions.
Okay, thank you. In that case, can we note, please, comments in the chat? Any recommendations? Thank you all. Is that everybody who's going to comment? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for that and the comments made by the board there. Which brings us on to agenda item 4, report on the age discrimination and remedy. Rachel, thank you.
Good morning. This is my first report. This one is an update on the age discrimination remedy and just how we've been getting on with the retrospective remedy. So for active retirements, the process is running well. We've had 23 active retirements since October 23. 18 have been paid, and we just got 5 pending payment, which are coming up over June, July and August. We have got one member who's also affected by Matthews, which needs to be done first. So that's kind of like been a bit ongoing. Data, we've supplied all the GAD data to LPPA and answered any queries, and we've also supplied all the data to other brigades that need it for the transfers, and we've received all the data from the other brigades as well. So there's nothing outstanding on our side in terms of data. LPPA does have everything they need from us from the statements. Contingent decisions, we've had 3 claims which have all been approved. The guidance, however, has been temporarily removed by the LGA, so we've been a bit sort of stuck with what to do with them. They have kind of confirmed in email about the scheme some members can rejoin, but we are still waiting for them to kind of reissue that guidance, which I think now is fairly imminent. We have, however, been collating the data in the background, and we've sent over some of it to LPPA. So hopefully once that guidance is back up, we can then start to plan to issue the statements to those members. Contribution adjustments, we've had quite a lot of activity on this. So on the ABS that were issued back in August, members would have seen their contribution adjustments that either kind of a refund, so where they've overpaid in 06 contributions versus the 2015 scheme, or the other way around with the 92 scheme. So we've had 59 requests for refunds, and one person's asked to pay their 1992 contributions. So we have processed all but one of those now. So we have paid the majority of the refunds, and the person's paid their invoice to us. So we've got a nice process working with finance on that. I suppose the big thing to note on the report is the statutory deadline. So the deadline to issue the remedial service statements to the pensioner members was the 31st of March. I think we had 175 in total to issue. Ahead of the deadline, it became clear that 27 members wouldn't receive their statement due to kind of like a delay in outstanding guidance, or guidance that was received very late from the government. So we wouldn't be able to do anything with that guidance. The scheme manager took the decision to apply for the deadline to extend those. So those were the pensions regulator was written to by the scheme manager, and we extended the deadline for those members. As of the 31st of March, 128 statements were issued and 47 statements were not issued. So there was a slight change. It's listed in the report. So it turned out that only 17 were covered by the extension because we reclassified 8 of them as a breach because it was due to a systems error, not lack of guidance, why they couldn't be issued. So in total, we had 30 that were a breach. So that's been recorded on the risk register as a breach. The main reasons why, there's 3 reasons why they didn't go out. Data issues during production, an issue regarding people who had scheme pays that couldn't be processed through the system, and there's 2 deceased members which need to be done manually, and there's quite a bit of work that will need to go into those and a bit of consideration. that needs to go into those. Once that was recorded as a breach, we then needed to kind of make the assessment of whether that was material or not. And so there was quite a lot of guidance that came out from the LGA regarding what would be classed as a reportable breach or not. So we kind of worked through that table. And as it says in the report, we didn't think it was due to poor governance or poor advice or decision making. And we did know that LPPA had done quite a lot of work in the run up to the production of the statements to kind of cleanse the data, look at the data, so try and really minimise any of those data issues that may have occurred during production. Unfortunately, though, we did have 30 that we couldn't get out, which was about 17% of the total of the statement. So the scheme manager kind of looked at the assessment and decided that it wasn't a reportable breach. Didn't think it was. It fell into that kind of green category, particularly because there is a plan in place with LPPA to kind of put things right, how they're going to address each of those statements that didn't get issued. And since the last report I had, I get a 2-weekly update on the statements that are going out, and we have issued like another 6 statements since the deadline, so the numbers are coming down. Engagement with members, the national member website is updated, as is the LPPA's website with information for members. Members who did get their statement by the end of March, they were statements on pension points, but they also received a printed pack in the post with all of the information, and there's like extra forms for people to kind of complete and return with what option they want to take and if they've got any additional questions. And people with email addresses were also emailed to advise them that it had been issued. The members who didn't receive their statement were also communicated with to apologise, to say that there would be a delay and they wouldn't get their statement by the 31st of March. I think that's the main points of the report. Do you have any questions?
I do. I have one. When they don't get their statement, what else happens subsequently to that?
So when the members get the statement, so what those members need to do, they need to make a choice as to whether they want to take legacy benefits or reform scheme benefits for the remedy period for those 7 years. For some members, it won't make any difference if they were, not that it wouldn't make any difference, but if they were a fully protected member, they would have received their full legacy benefits. So when they have the alternate option of the reform scheme benefits, it's likely they'd be lower. So there'd be kind of no financial gain for them to switch unless they wanted different survivor benefits in a few scenarios. But for members who were transitioned into the 2015 scheme, it's likely that their legacy benefits for that full period would be a lot more than what they're currently receiving. So they can then decide to take those legacy benefits, and then they will be due the back pension and any kind of additional lump sum that will be due to them. So LPPA are kind of like hoping to start paying those members who have returned to say they want to switch to legacy benefits starting from next month.
Okay, that is clear. So if somebody does not get a statement, they're not in a position to make those decisions?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's unfortunate. Okay, so what has been the response to the emailing and letter writing in relation to those 30 that have not received a statement?
I'm not sure, to be honest, with those. I've had 2 emails to myself from members who didn't get a statement. So I've kind of explained the reasons why they haven't had a statement, and that we're working. The reasons were because of the lack of guidance from the government. So I know that some guidance has been released now, and LPPA are working through it. Obviously, they need to sort of check the examples and then make sure the system's updated so we can process them. But unfortunately, for some members, we can't do it. We've only just had the guidance, and we're just working through it and getting the system ready. The schemes pay issue, which was a system issue, I know is currently being worked through, and so those should be going out imminently to people.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Just as a point to note, when I came on the board in that last year, whenever it was, a member contacted me directly and said, I have a problem with my pension. I see you on the board. Can you help me? Obviously, I referred that member back to the officers of the council to get his answer for him. But it was a difficult couple of questions. So my observation on that is, if they don't get an answer from you, they will go wherever they want and can go to get an answer to asking. I just bounced them back to the council. But the point I'm making is, we need to be cautious if we can't answer questions, that we keep members, buoyant in terms of, yes, we are working for you. Okay, thank you. I think thank you, Rachel. John, you had your hand up, and Chris, I'll come to you.
Thanks, Peter. So I think I'm fairly relaxed around the sort of non-declaration of the breach. I'm sure that the scheme manager will have taken all sorts of advice around what to do in those respects. So relatively comfortable on that. I guess my question to Rachel is, I think I heard you say that since our March position, we've had, so of the 30, 6 now have been cleared. So presumably that still leaves 24 in the system. And without wishing to get out your crystal ball, have we got any sense of when those last 24 might get some response?
So the 6 that were issued will be from the total, so not necessarily just from the breach ones. So they may also come out of the ones that were delayed. So it'll be out of that total of 47 that are left to issue. LPPA have kind of provided an updated project plan of how they anticipate to get the rest of them off, which does run until October, but that's not necessarily to say that it will be October when they're all done. It could be earlier, but they're kind of working through all the different cohorts, and it will depend also when they get the guidance from government on certain cohorts of people. But a lot of them will be manual, and I understand, the manual cases can take half a day to do each. So some of them may take a while just because they're manual, but hopefully, if it's a systems issue, they will go kind of at once the system's ready.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Rachel, for that. Chris?
Rachel's just stolen half of my further point I was going to add. So just to supplement what Rachel was saying, so those that didn't receive statements by the 31st of March all got a letter confirming that there would be a delay, so they weren't left unknowing. And then, as Rachel's just alluded to, there is a plan to have all the remaining ones resolved and sent by the 31st of October. Where we'll do it quicker we can, and there are various tranches, some of which are resolved through system updates, so we'll get those out quicker. But yeah, everything the plan is to get them all done by the 31st of October.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Okay, any other questions from the board here? Forgot what item we're on. Look at me. That good. Item 4. Okay, any other questions? Should we make a note then, please, if we could, on the contents? Thank you, Rachel, for your report, and I apologise for quizzing you, putting you under the spotlight there. Good. Okay, excellent. Thank you, board. Right, that brings me on to agenda item 5. Yes, good. So, report on the second options exercise for retained firefighters. Oh, look, Rachel, it's you again.
Yeah.
How lucky are you?
I know, the other projects that, on at the same time, which is rather helpful. So an update on this project. we have been trying to trace members that we were unable to contact. We have engaged a tracing company that's used by LPPA. I think at one of the previous boards, a question was asked about the criteria that they use to trace members. So that's in the appendix there for you to kind of have a look over. We do still have 19 members that we haven't been able to locate. The tracing company can't find them. So we, I think once we have the new legislation that's coming, we can have like another look back at the 19 members and see kind of like what, if anything else, we can do with them at that point. We did send a reminder letter in January to people who haven't responded. We had a few more people send back their expression of interest forms, but not that many. So we still have quite a lot of members who haven't responded to any of the letters. I think 3 or 4 now that they've been sent. But we have had 142 expressions of interest forms. We've nearly got the quotes out for all of those. We've got 3 that are with GAD for a manual calculation. And I think as of yesterday, we only had 1 quote left to issue. So we've done well to get all the quotes out that we've had the expressions of interest forms for. And we've had 97 positive elections so far. We have got, under the current regulations, we have got 20 members who we sent elections for who haven't sent back. We sent the quote, but they haven't sent an election back. So under the current regulations, they are out of time. However, there is some new legislation coming, so they may get an extra 12 months to respond. But we'll have to wait to see what the new legislation said. I think it will be in the detail of the legislation, whether they can still kind of make an election. We did actively chase them, though, before the 30th of March. We called them all and they didn't, respond. What else is there? We have sent all the positive elections. So for the deferred inactives, we've been taking their payment. They've either paid by lump sum or we've set up instalments for them. And the pensioner members are all with LPPA. They've been sending out the retirement forms for them. And the payment for those is taken once they are paid their arrears of pension and lump sum. So to date, LPPA have paid 17 pensioner members and there's 35 outstanding to pay. There is an issue with paying them because we need to update the interest on the quote, and we can only do that once GAD release the interest file. So if we were going to pay a member in June, we need to update the quote with the June interest, but we don't receive that June file from GAD until probably the end of the first week of the month. And then LPPA have a very short deadline until payroll deadline, and all these are manual cases. So at the moment, they're only able to process 5 cases for us a month, hoping that we can increase those numbers, but at the moment we're kind of paying the maximum that we can. Quarterly reporting, we still report to LGA every quarter with our figures, and those are in the reports. And in the report, I just kind of summarised the new amended legislation. There was a consultation on it, but as of yet, we haven't heard anything back from the government. They haven't published a response or any new legislation. So we need to wait for that. But it will introduce new cohorts of members who are eligible for Matthews, either for sort of different types of death benefits or conversions, or able to buy back special service where they weren't entitled to it previously. So I think we'll just have to wait for legislation and see the detail in there. But otherwise, kind of from our perspective, it's kind of wound down a little bit now. We've issued the all but one of the quotes, and we're just waiting to hear back from GAD on those manual ones. But obviously, we still have quite a lot of queries from members on this topic.
I'm sure. Thank you, Rachel. Any questions from the board, please? Do we, as an employer, I'm not an employer, by the way, I'm retired, educate our retiring members as to the consequences of not completing their admin, as it were, Do we help them in that journey as they come to the end of their careers to raise their awareness on matters?
What, just for normal retirement, sort of separate from Matthew's project?
Really understand the consequences of what's happening in relation to their benefits when they come to leave, if they fail to do their admin, for example.
Yeah, I think when they retire, it's different. They're with us. We're kind of notified when they're leaving, and they're kind of helped through the process by LPPA. I think the Matthews project's slightly different because they could have left our employment 20 years ago. So we have difficulties contacting them. I mean, the LGA have done, really good guidance. It's on the member website, and the chasing letters that we've been sending to them. I suppose we have to be careful we're not advising members what to do. We're providing information, but all the standard letters that we've been sending to members are produced by the LGA. So it is very thorough about what the option is for them, what they can potentially buy back. And then we have got another letter template to send out to people who haven't responded, and it does sort of cover off what that then means by them not responding.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Rachel. Most informative for me. As every time I attend one of these, I seem to just pick up more tidbits of what I need to know for the future. Great. So does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Smashing. Thank you. So do we have a thank you? Who's that? John, you want it, aren't you? Like a machine. Thank you very much. Anybody else noted? Thank you, Darren. Richard, thank you very much. All right, that brings us on to agenda item 6, I think I've got it down as, which is our future meetings and the end of this sort of part 1 of our business. Stephanie, have I got that right?
Yes, that's right. It's just to note the dates of the next meeting, and then just a reminder for board members that there'll be training once this meeting's closed, if you can stay on the call. Absolutely.
So just to confirm, the next meetings coming up are the 16th of October 2025 at 10 a.m. and then next year 24th of April 26 at 10 a.m. as well. And I'm sure Stephanie and others will be in touch with you via Teams, etc. Excellent. Okay, thank you. So members, please stay on. I guess other people will be toddling off.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. I'll leave you in Simon's capable hands for your training.
Thank you.
Cheers.